Some people take buses their whole lives, sister posted with my photo. Accept your financial reality. The post got hundreds of likes. I said nothing in response. The next morning, Forbes announced, Transport Empire IPO creates Billionaire. The notification popped up on my phone at 2:47 a.m. while I was reviewing quarterly reports in my home office. Facebook had tagged me in Jessica's latest social media masterpiece. A candid photo she'd taken of me, waiting at the bus stop outside Mom's house after Sunday dinner. Looking tired in my work clothes with my laptop bags slung over my shoulder. Some people take buses their whole lives. The caption read, in Jessica's characteristic tone of fake concern mixed with genuine condescension. My sister Sarah is 34 and still riding public transportation everywhere. Maybe it's time to accept your financial reality, instead of pretending you're building something big. Hashtag, real talk, hashtag, family love, hashtag, grow up. I stared at the screen for a long moment, taking in the carefully crafted cruelty of the post. Jessica had waited until after midnight to publish it, ensuring maximum visibility during the late-night social media scroll hours. She'd chosen the most unflattering angle possible. Me hunched slightly forward under the weight of my laptop bag, squinting against the streetlight. Looking every inch the defeated office worker she believed me to be. Within 6 hours, the post had 847 likes and 156 comments. I scrolled through them while sipping my morning coffee, each response, more predictable than the last. So sad when people can't face reality. At least she's environmentally conscious. Some people just aren't meant for success. Jessica, you're so right to call this out. Someone needs to tell her the truth. This is what happens when you don't have realistic goals. Bus people, stay bus people. That's just life. The cruelty was breathtaking in its casual efficiency. Dozens of people who had never met me, didn't know my circumstances, and had no understanding of my life were enthusiastically agreeing that I was a failure who needed to accept reality. Jessica had weaponized social media to create a public humiliation that would follow me indefinitely, archived in the permanent record of the internet. My phone buzzed with text messages from various family members who had seen the post. Cousin Mark had sent a laughing image, followed by harsh but fair. But someone needed to say it. Uncle Robert had forwarded the post to our family group chat with the comment, Jessica's got a. Some people need to hear hard truths. Even my Aunt Linda, usually the peacemaker, had liked the post. I set the phone aside and returned to the documents, spread across my mahogany desk. See filings, investment bank proposals, and market analysis reports that would have made Jessica's social media followers reconsider their hasty judgments, but they weren't meant to see those documents. Not yet. EPO had been in development for 18 months. Williams Aviation Services had grown from a small regional helicopter company to a comprehensive transportation empire, spanning emergency medical services, executive transport, cargo delivery, and tourism flights across 12 states. Our fleet of 127 aircraft generated $340 million in annual revenue, with projections showing potential for $500 million within 2 years of going public. Goldman Sachs had valued the company at $2.8 billion for the initial public offering, with early investor interests suggesting the actual trading price could reach $4.2 billion by the end of the first day. My 67% ownership stake would make me worth approximately $2.8 billion the moment the market opened. But Jessica didn't know any of that. Neither did the rest of my family. To them, I was just Sarah, who took the bus, worked some mysterious transportation job, and lived modestly in a downtown apartment that they assumed represented the peak of my financial capabilities. The decision to keep my success private hadn't been about shame or fear. It had been about protection and strategy. Growing up, I'd watched my family's treatment of anyone who achieved something significant. They either demanded immediate financial support, found reasons to tear down the achievement as undeserved, temporary, or somehow fraudulent, or simply refused to believe it was real until forced to confront undeniable evidence. When I had started the company 9 years ago with a single used helicopter and a $200,000 loan, I'd made the strategic decision to let them believe I'd remain small. It had started as a necessity. The early years were genuinely precarious, and I couldn't afford to have family members asking for loans or expecting financial support while I was reinvesting every penny back into the business. But as the company grew, the secrecy had become something more sophisticated. It protected me from the constant pressure to fund family vacations, down payments, and emergency expenses that seemed to multiply whenever someone in our family came into money. More importantly, it protected me from their disbelief, their casual dismissal of anything that didn't fit their preconceived notions of what I was capable of achieving. It had been surprisingly easy to maintain the illusion. I kept my apartment in the downtown area, a modest 2-bedroom that was actually quite convenient to our main office, but looked appropriately humble to family members who visited. I dressed modestly for family events, shopping at the same stores I'd frequented during my genuinely broke years. I took public transportation whenever I knew family members might see me. The bus stop outside Mom's house was actually 3 blocks from where my driver usually picked me up. But I'd walked there Sunday evening specifically, because I had spotted Jessica's car in the driveway and knew she'd be looking for photo opportunities. She'd been increasingly aggressive about documenting what she saw as my failures, posting subtle digs about family members who never grew up and still lived like college students. She delivered exactly what I'd expected, and exactly what I'd been prepared for. My phone rang at 6:15 a.m. Jessica herself, probably calling to gloat about her viral success. "Did you see my post?" she asked without preamble, her voice bright with satisfaction. "I saw it," I replied calmly, continuing to review the Goldman Sachs market analysis. "Good," she said. "I know it seems harsh, but someone needed to say it. You can't keep living in this fantasy world where you're going to suddenly become some kind of business mogul. You're 34, Sarah. It's time to accept reality." "You're probably right," I agreed, making notes on the projected opening stock price. "I am right." Jessica continued, warming to her theme. "And I'm not trying to be mean, I'm trying to help you. The sooner you accept your situation, the sooner you can find some peace with it. There's nothing wrong with taking buses and working regular jobs. Not everyone can be successful in business." "Very thoughtful of you," I said, checking the time. "Markets would open in 3.5 hours. I just don't want you to waste any more years chasing these impossible dreams. You could be happy if you just accepted who you are." "And who am I, Jessica?" "You're someone who takes buses," she said. "Simply someone who works a regular transportation job and lives in a small apartment and doesn't have a lot of money. It's okay. That's who you are." "Interesting perspective," I replied, watching the social media metrics update in real time on my computer screen. Her post was now approaching 1,200 likes. "Post is really resonating with people," Jessica said, unable to keep the pride out of her voice. "I think a lot of people recognize the situation, having a family member who just can't face reality about their limitations, certainly getting attention." I agreed. "Sometimes public accountability is what people need," Jessica continued. "When someone's living in denial, sometimes it takes their community to help them see the truth." After she hung up, I continued my morning routine with unusual calm. Jessica's post was spreading exactly as I'd anticipated, creating the perfect setup for what was about to unfold. Timing couldn't have been more perfect if I'd orchestrated it myself. Which in a way I had. 7:23 a.m., my phone rang again. "Morgan Stanley, right on schedule. Miss Williams, this is David Chin from our IPO team. We wanted to confirm final details before the opening bell. Everything looks good from our end." I confirmed, watching Jessica's post climb toward 1,500 likes on my computer screen. "Media strategy is still set for 9:30 a.m. announcement." Exactly. Forbes will break the story simultaneously with market opening. CNBC has you scheduled for a live interview at 10:00:15, and the Wall Street Journal feature will publish online at 11 a.m. CNN wants to do a segment on stealth wealth strategies at 2 p.m. Perfect timing, I said, taking a screenshot of Jessica's post for my personal records. "This should be interesting. Ma'am, if you don't mind my asking, you sound unusually calm for someone about to become a billionaire in 2 hours." I laughed, scrolling through the comments on Jessica's post where family friends were now chiming in with their own observations about my apparent financial failures. Let's just say, I've been looking forward to this particular morning for a long time. The comment section had become a feeding frenzy of casual cruelty. High school acquaintances were sharing their own memories of my supposed failures. Former Kio workers from my early jobs were chiming in with observations about how I'd never seemed destined for success. Even people who barely knew me were offering psychological analyses of why some people refuse to accept their limitations. 8:15. Amai received a text from my assistant morning show. Producers are calling, ready for media storm. I texted back, launch protocol, full visibility. After hanging up with Morgan Stanley, I showered and dressed in my best suit. A custom Armani that had been hanging in my closet for 6 months, waiting for this exact day. The transformation from bus rider Sarah to billionaire SEO Sarah acquired more than just different clothes, but the clothes were an important start. The suit had been tailored specifically for television appearances and investor meetings. The navy fabric was chosen to photograph under studio lights. The cut designed to project authority without seeming ostentatious. I'd had it made by the same tailor who dressed Fortune 500 SEALs, but I'd never worn it to family events. At 8:45, Amy took a taxi to Goldman Sachs offices in the financial district. Irony wasn't lost on me. For the first time in months, I was actually riding in a vehicle other than the bus or my privately driven town car. By tomorrow, that irony would be the least interesting thing about my transportation choices. The Goldman Sachs conference room was filled with investment bankers, lawyers and media representatives, all focused on computer screens, showing pre-market trading data. Our stock ticker, wavy for Williams, Aviation Services, wouldn't start trading for another 30 minutes. But institutional investors were already placing orders based on the prospectus that had been circulating for weeks. Initial demand is extraordinary, announced Sarah Chan, the lead banker on our deal. We're seeing institutional orders for 2-3 times the available shares, pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, major mutual fund companies. Everyone wants a piece of this IPO. The room buzzed with the energy of a major financial event. Lawyers were making final calls to SEC regulators. PR representatives were coordinating with financial media outlets. Junior bankers were updating presentation slides with the latest pre-market data. This could be one of the strongest transportation IPO debuts in 5 years. Chen continued, possibly the strongest debut in any sector this quarter. My phone had been buzzing steadily since 8:30, but I kept it face down during the pre-market briefing. Now, with 15 minutes until the opening bell, I finally checked the messages. 47 missed calls, 238 text messages, 1,847 Facebook notifications. Jessica's post had exploded overnight, reaching 3,200 likes and 487 comments. But now the comments had taken a different tone. People were sharing news articles with headlines like "Mystery Transportation Billionaire to go public today," and "Williams Aviation Services, quiet empire about to make noise." Someone had connected the dots. Shit. Read a comment from Jessica's college friend. "Is this the same Williams from that aviation company going public today?" Sarah Williams, Jessica, another friend had written in all caps. "Check the news right now. Your sister is in Forbes." Wait, is this the Williams? Aviation IPO. Holy crap, Jessica, what have you done? The most recent comment, posted just 8 minutes ago, was from my cousin Mark. "Hey, Jessica. You might want to delete this post. Like right now." Jessica hadn't seen the warnings yet. Her last activity was a heart eyes emerging on someone's compliment about her brave honesty in calling out family members who live in denial about their financial situation. 9:25 a.m. Every phone in the Goldman Sachs conference room started buzzing simultaneously. The major financial news outlets were preparing their coordinated announcement, synchronized with the market opening. At 9:29 a.m. Forbes published their article online. 1 minute ahead of schedule, Transport Empire IPO creates Billionaire. Williams Aviation Services goes public. Founder stake worth $2.8 billion. The article included a professional headshot I'd taken 3 months ago showing me in a navy blazer standing in front of one of our newest helicopters. Caption read, "Sarah Williams, 34, founded Williams Aviation Services in 2015. With a single helicopter and a vision for comprehensive transportation solutions. Today's IPO values her company at $2.8 billion, making Williams one of the youngest female billionaires in the transportation sector." The article detailed our company's growth from a single aircraft startup to a multi-state operations serving hospitals, corporations, government agencies, and private clients. It highlighted our safety record, our innovative use of technology in helicopter dispatch and maintenance, and our expansion into new markets, including urban air mobility and cargo delivery services. Williams has maintained an unusually low profile for a CEO of her stature. Forbes reporter had written, "She lives modestly, uses public transportation, and has avoided the typical trappings of executive wealth. I've always believed that how you build something is more important than how you display it." Williams told Forbes in an exclusive interview last week, "My personal phone was now ringing continuously. I switched it to silent and handed it to my assistant who'd flown in from our Chicago headquarters specifically to handle the media chaos." At 9:30 a.m. exactly, Wavy began trading on the Nasdaq. The opening price was $47 per share, 23% above our initial pricing of $38. Within the first 5 minutes, it had climbed to $52 by 9:45. We were at $58 per share, making the company worth $4.1 billion. In my personal stake worth approximately $2.7 billion. "Congratulations," Sarah Chan said, shaking my hand as applause filled the conference room. "You're officially a billionaire." The words felt surreal, even though I had been expecting them for months. All the planning, all the careful secrecy, all the family bus rides and modest apartments had led to this moment, sitting in a Manhattan conference room, watching my net worth multiply by the minute on financial news networks. CNBC was running a continuous ticker showing Wavy's price progression. Bloomberg had interrupted their regular programming for a special report on the stealth billionaire. The Wall Street Journal had published their feature story with the headline, "The CEO Who Took the Bus." Williams Aviation's unlikely success story. My assistant approached with my phone, her eyes wide. "Miss Williams, you have 847 missed calls in the past 30 minutes. Your sister Jessica has called 23 times in the last 10 minutes alone. Should I start returning them?" "Just family calls for now," I said, accepting the phone. "Everyone else can go through our media relations team." The first call I returned was to Mom, who answered before the first ring finished. "Sarah?" Her voice was high and strained, bordering on hysteria. "Sir, is this real? Are you really the person in these news articles? Are you really worth billions of dollars?" "Real, Mom?" I confirmed, watching Wavy climb to $61 per share on the conference room monitors. "I'm sorry. I didn't tell you sooner. I needed to keep it quiet until the IPO was finalized, but you take the bus," she said, as if this fact alone disproved everything she'd seen on the news. "You live in that little apartment. You wear regular clothes. You said you worked in transportation dispatch." "I do work in transportation," I said gently. "I own the transportation company and I take the bus because it's environmentally responsible and gives me time to work during my commute. The apartment is downtown because it's convenient to your main office," she repeated faintly. "You have a main office." "We have offices in 12 cities. I explained the headquarters is in Chicago. I spend most of my time at the regional office here, in town." There was a long silence before she spoke again. "Jessica's post," she said finally, her voice breaking. "Honey, Jessica's post. Everyone's seen it. Everyone knows what she said about you." "I saw it," I assured her. "Don't worry about Jessica. We'll work everything out." "She's been getting calls all morning," Mom continued. "Reporters, friends, people from high school, college roommates. Everyone wants to know about her sister, the billionaire. She's not taking it." Could imagine Jessica's entire identity was built around being the successful sister, the one with the nice car and the designer clothes and the social media worthy lifestyle. She'd spent years positioning herself as the family's success story while treating me as a cautionary tale. Having that narrative collapse publicly through her own social media post be particularly devastating. "Is she?" I asked, surprising myself with genuine concern. "She locked herself in her bedroom. Mom said David's trying to get her to come out, but she won't even answer the door. She keeps saying she's ruined everything, that everyone thinks she's an idiot, that she's destroyed your relationship forever." My assistant tapped my shoulder and pointed to the monitors. Wavy had hit $64 per share. The company was now worth $4.5 billion. My personal stake had crossed $3 billion. "Mom, I need to handle some business calls, but I'll be over tonight after the markets close. We'll figure this out as a family." "Hey, honey and Sarah, proud of you." I don't understand how you did this, how you kept it secret, how you build something so big without any of us knowing. But I'm proud of you." The next 4 hours were a blur of interviews, conference calls, and congratulations from investors and industry peers. CNBC wanted to understand my stealth wealth strategy and why I'd chosen to live so modestly while building $1 billion empire. The Wall Street Journal was fascinated by the quiet billionaire who rode the bus to family dinners. Bloomberg wanted to discuss the future of regional aviation services and urban air mobility. "You've created something unprecedented," Bloomberg anchor told me during a live interview, "not just the business success, but this approach to wealth that seems almost anti-materialistic. You're worth over $3 billion, but you still take public transportation. Can you explain that choice? Wealth isn't about what you display." I replied, "It's about what you build and how you impact people's lives. Our helicopters save lives through emergency medical transport. Our aircraft connect remote communities to essential services. It's more meaningful to me than owning expensive cars. But surely there's some personal satisfaction in financial success. The satisfaction comes from solving problems and creating value." I said the money is just a way to keep score and fund the next phase of growth. Through it, all my phone kept buzzing with messages from family members, high school friends, and people I hadn't spoken to in years. Everyone wanted to understand how the bus rider had built a multi-billion-dollar empire without anyone noticing. The messages from extended family were particularly revealing. Uncle Robert, who had enthusiastically shared Jessica's post that morning, sent a long text about how he'd always believed in my potential. Cousin Mark, who had called Jessica's post harsh but fair, now wanted to discuss investment opportunities. Aunt Linda, who'd like the original post, was now asking about job opportunities at my company. But the message I was most interested in came at 2:17 p.m. from Jessica herself. "Sarah, I'm sorry, I didn't know. I feel like such an idiot. Can you ever forgive me? I've ruined everything. I'm so ashamed." I stared at the message for a long time, thinking about the years of family gatherings where Jessica had made similar comments, the assumptions and dismissals and casual cruelties that she treated as harmless family banter. The bus stop photo wasn't an aberration. It was the culmination of a pattern that had been building for years. It was also my sister testing from her locked bedroom, probably crying, and definitely humiliated by the viral nature of her mistake. Despite everything, despite years of dismissive comments and public embarrassment, she was still family typed back. "Nothing to forgive family dinner Sunday. I'll take the bus." Her response came immediately. "I'll pick you up in whatever car you want me to buy you. Please, I'll do anything to make this right." I actually laughed out loud in the middle of the Goldman Sachs conference room while billion-dollar deals were being discussed around me. "I like the bus," I typed back. "Maybe we can talk about getting you a helicopter license. I might need a family member who understands the aviation business." "Are you serious?" came her immediate reply. "Dead serious. Williams Aviation could use someone with your social media skills. Turns out you're very good at getting people's attention." Wavy closed its first day of trading at $67 per share, making Williams Aviation Services worth $4.7 billion, and my personal stake worth $3.1 billion. The financial news networks called it one of the most successful transportation IPO debuts in market history. The evening news coverage was extraordinary. Every major network led with the story of the stealth billionaire whose sister had unknowingly exposed her wealth through a cruel social media post. Jessica's original Facebook post had been shared over 50,000 times. But now it was being shared as an example of how assumptions about success can be completely wrong. "This is a cautionary tale about judging people based on appearances," one CNN commentator observed. Sarah Williams built $1 billion empire while maintaining the lifestyle of a regular working person. Her sister's attempt to publicly shame her for taking buses backfired spectacularly. When it turned out Williams could buy the entire bus company if she wanted to. The real success, I thought, as I finally headed home that evening, wasn't the money or the media attention, or even Jessica's public comeuppance. It was the phone call I had received at 4:30 p.m. from my company's head of human resources. "Miss Williams," she'd said, We've received over 3,000 job applications since the news broke. People are saying they want to work for a company led by someone who stays humble despite success. The applications are coming from MIT graduates, Harvard MBAs, former Google executives. Everyone wants to be part of what we're building. That was the real victory, not the money, not the vindication, but the recognition that the values I tried to build into the company, substance over appearance, impact over image, long-term value over short-term gain, were resonating with people who shared those priorities. When I got home that night, there was a car in my apartment building's parking lot. Jessica's BMW, which suddenly looked very different to me now that I knew. I could buy 100 of them without making a dent in my net worth. She was sitting on the steps outside my building, still in the same clothes she had been wearing in her social media photos from the morning. But now they looked wrinkled, and her makeup was streaked from crying. "I brought Chinese takeout," she said, when she saw me holding up the familiar white containers, "and I have some things to explain and apologize for a lot of things." I sat down beside her on the concrete steps, still wearing my custom suit from the day's interviews, and accepted a container of lo mein. "Are you really worth $3 billion? She asked quietly. As of market close today, $3.1 billion confirmed. "But I'm still your sister who likes Chinese takeout and takes the bus when it's environmentally responsible." Jessica stared at me for a long moment, her eyes red from crying, her perfect hair disheveled for the first time I could remember. "I am never posting about anyone's finances ever again," she said through fresh tears, probably wise. I agreed, opening my container and inhaling the familiar smell of Chinese food that had been our shared comfort food since childhood. "Can you really forgive me?" she asked. "I was so cruel, so public about it. I humiliated you in front of hundreds of people. You humiliated yourself." I pointed out gently. "I just happened to be the subject." "And what? Maybe it was exactly what we both needed." "What do you mean?" "You needed to learn that your assumptions about success might be wrong. And I needed to stop hiding who I've become. Living in secret was getting exhausting." Jessica started crying again, but this time she was laughing too. I posted a photo calling my billionaire sister a failure. "This is going to follow me for the rest of my life," or I suggested could be the story of how you learn to see people differently, how you realize that success doesn't always look the way you expect it to. Buses would still be running tomorrow. But something told me my relationship with my family was about to change in ways that had nothing to do with transportation, and everything to do with understanding that success, wealth, and worth are often hidden in places we never think to look. And Jessica learned that some people really do take buses their whole lives, even when they own billion-dollar aviation empires.